the next item on the agenda is the discussion of the Oak Hill Drive water line, and if you could address that, Adam, and kind of update us what we've done so far, the results.
Sure. Just to take you back a little bit in history, late last fall, you approved a superchlorination process that was recommended to us by Julie Sievers at DNR. That was instituted late last fall. And then in the December-January time period, there was a discussion with Julie about, and Ms. Sievers, I should say, about the possibility of changing our pH level of our water, that in some way might be causing some of the issues. And as a result of that, the pH levels were changed slightly to attempt to work on the issue as well. Then in May of this year, Mike also instituted another superchlorination process. You might remember last year when we talked about it. It would require an ongoing, continuing procedure in an attempt to continue to flow up the water. Most of the communication we had been receiving back over the winter period was positive, that things seemed to be getting better. However, roughly a week ago, we received communication from Ms. Beaver that she had seen a plateauing of the issue. It didn't seem like it was getting any better on her behalf. And as such, we instituted going out there and flushing with the hydrant to take care of the issue. So I guess what I'm reporting back to you, and I informed them that I would have it on the agenda this evening, is to give you a public update of what's been going on with the red water issue, and spend a couple of minutes going over what other options we continue to have on the table. I have updated Julie Sievers to the situation that we currently have going on to see if she might have any other scenarios, any other considerations that we might use as alternative options. So she's going back and she's doing some looking for something else that might be a resolution for us. However, without that communication back yet, we did leave with two options still on the table. One was when we talked about doing the superchlorination process, we discussed the possibility of doing an isolated chlorination process. And you might remember that one of the concerns there was that anybody who's on that particular line that's isolated would be without water service for roughly 3 days while that process is conducted. What we basically
drinking water.
I'm sorry?
It was all drinking water.
Correct. The other option that we had been entertaining last fall was Mr. Scheffler has suggested that he could see a scenario where there might be a bad hookup or a bad component of line up by the golf course that might be at least a majority of the cause of this issue. And he was suggesting some form of an exploratory dig in an attempt to determine if that is actually there. I term it as exploratory because that's exactly what it would be. I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm simply saying that we're going to do some digging and looking around for the most part is what we're talking about doing, in hopes that we might be able to find something to resolve the problem that they're dealing with up there. But I know some of them are here tonight.
Before I open it up to the public, any estimates on costs of A and B which you just discussed?
When we talked about the superchlorination process before, we looked in the $3,000 to $7,000 range. The only reason why I say it might lean more towards the more expensive gauge of that is in our initial estimates for the standard full system superchlorination process that we used. We anticipated it would cost somewhere in the $1,500 to $2,000 range, and it turned out costing us about the $3,500 range. So I would tell you that it will probably be on the upper end of that scale, somewhere in the $5,000 to $7,000 range to go through the superchlorination. And that takes into consideration time and material and digging and the chemicals themselves going through that process. As far as the digging process goes, that one's a little harder to put a dollar sign on because, as I said before, it's an exploratory activity. You don't know how much digging you're going to be doing, and you may be replacing a lot of line, you may be replacing no line when you get down there. So it's hard for me to actually put any type of real estimates against that.
Any other questions from the council or comments?
Did Bob say anything about where he thought it was at, or?
He believed it may be between the old well that the city used to have up at the golf course and where the new line loops around into that area, which means that most of the line area we would be digging in would end up being on the golf course property. There may be a chance that we'd be running into the Ninth, is that Ninth? A little bit into the area on Ninth.
Right at the entry of the golf course.
Any other questions from the council? And then I'd ask for any input from citizens on this matter.
Well, I guess I started it because it happened about probably 5 years ago now when this began. It began at the time, just to bring some of you up to date, when there was a problem where Jacobsons lived. And if you know that, that would be the second house as you come around Ben. And it's where Wircheses live now. Jim Wirches lives now. And they're out of town. And they did that, they checked that water, and we had never had any problem where any of us live, ever. It's always just been fine. Our water has been as soft as other people and as clear as other people. They did that, and within 6 months, all of our water was contaminated, or whatever word I should use. It's an ugly yellowish brown. Am I not right?
You are right.
And it had seemed to get better when we cleared it, and it seemed to, in the winter, stay pretty much. But I don't know what would cause it to get worse, but when it got worse quickly again this time. And I wouldn't say it has got any better, would you?
For a while, it seems.
But I mean, since we called in a month, or when you came up at it, it
Since
stayed
about
about the
Eight
same.
days ago that I was up
And
there.
it stayed just the same when you get up in the morning, or Kent, you noticed it, especially just this, what you tell them, when Bill even changed all the water in their water heater.
Yeah, he drained the water heater, and then when it refilled and we turned the taps back on, it didn't matter whether it was a hot or cold faucet, that water was brown coming out of the tap, and it stayed that way for 5-10 minutes, maybe a little longer. And then it wasn't absolutely clear, it still was slightly discolored.
It is so you cannot wash your clothes as you people would wash your clothes. Maybe that's the nicest way to say it. I told Adam what it looked like before, and I hesitate to say that. But
Well, it looks like someone didn't flush the stool.
that's just exactly what it looks like. And, you know, making coffee out of that isn't very appetizing. It's very hard. That's the other thing we noticed, is that our water has become extremely hard.
I did ask Julie about that, and she did say that that is a direct result of the coloration issue.
I thought so. I thought
that would be a result
I
that
thought
you would
there'd be a
expect.
coordination there. And by the same token, when I had talked to Mike and some about how when you go to take a shower, you could not use a bar of soap and take a shower, or any of us take a shower. You wouldn't get anywhere. But you're going to have to buy whatever kind of shower gel you want, and buy the best, and hope, and then rinsing it off, your body itches and all that. I mean, I don't think I'm exaggerating, am I?
You're right.
Go ahead. I don't know how to say it any better.
We did fine, Mark.
Sometimes we've wondered if it'd be better just to bite the bullet and dig it all up rather than spend the money for another chlorination that might not work. I don't know. But we never had any problem until that loop, or whatever it was, you called it a loop, I believe, was done. And so it's something...